Hey folks, this is Travis with Pop Culture Rewind, and I'm here counting down my favorite PC games from the 1990s. Remember back in the day of PC gaming, having to use multiple floppy disks to install them, using DOS commands to get it all set up, reading the manuals, or if you just wanted to hop online, meant tying up your whole phone lines and waiting for the dial-up to connect to AOL, or Prodigy if you were desperate. Ah, the good old days. Okay, let's get on with the list. Number 10, Age of Empires. Made by Ensemble Studios and released by Microsoft Studios in 1997, which then went on to have an expansion add-ons, full-on sequels, but this is the one that started it all. What's cool about this game is use of historical eras as the backdrop. You get a sense of progression and achievements as you move through the different ages, from Stone Age, Tool Age, Bronze Age, and Iron Age. It even had the Roman Empire for the first expansion set, Rise of Rome, released the following year. There are 2 more sequels released, as well as a spin-off game called Age of Mythology. Number 9, Jazz Jackrabbit. Released in 1994 by Epic Mega Games for the DOS, then later released on Mac and then over to Windows. This was an early side-scrolling platformer. This one had a really cool design for the main character and the stages that looked like it was basically pulled straight from Sonic the Hedgehog. If you like original, traditional console platformers, definitely give this one a play or two. It's really fun. Number 8, Star Wars XWing Fighter. Released in 1993 and was the first game released by LucasArts that was based on the Star Wars universe. It's been years since I've actually played this game, but remember playing it and thinking about how cool it was that I was seeing all the sights and sounds from the Star Wars movies, while being able to be a pilot taking out the Empire as I used my special cockpit pilot controller, which was pretty cool too. Again, this was early 90s, early time period for PC games, especially licensed games. A lot of people usually regard the sequel game TIE Fighter to be the better one, which it arguably is, but this one is held a little more closer to the heart for me personally, so I had to go with this one. Number 7, Rise of the Triad. Released in 1994 by Apogee Games, this one was a fun first-person shooter game that followed in the footsteps of Wolfenstein 3D, mainly because it was made by the same developer and using the same game engine. In fact, it was intended to be a sequel to Wolfenstein until the makers were informed the project got cancelled. They went ahead and went on with the game, changing things up as they went. Just think of this as Wolfenstein 3 just with more weapons, getting the use of magic, and a lot more blood. Number 6, Myst. Released in 1993, it's a puzzle game of all puzzle games. I don't even think I actually completed this game, to be honest, but I remember being immersed in it every time I played it. So genius how they made the whole story without using any characters at all other than yourself walking around on this island, finding objects and clues throughout as you solve puzzles as gameplay. It may be one of the first games that had such non-linear gameplay to the extent that it changes the ending of the game depending on what you do. So how'd you do in it? Number 5, HalfLife. Released in 1998 and was a debut game for Valve, released by Sierra Studios. You play as Dr. Gordon Freeman, and you're basically trying to fight your way out of the secret research facility where he works after an experiment goes wrong. A groundbreaking game that inspired other first-person games after this was released. From the Half-Life game engine, we got games like Counter-Strike and, of course, the sequel Half-Life 2. Such a good story, with it being told through the eyes of Gordon, you can't help but be immersed in this epic story. If you haven't done so, go check it out. It's definitely worth the play. Number 4, Starcraft. Released in 1998 by Blizzard Entertainment, introduced me to real-time strategy games, which is essentially just army building by gathering minerals, ores. It's an amazing game focusing on the war between the Terrans, which is humans, Zerg, Protoss, and the Xel'Naga, which you don't really play, but it kind of steers the direction of the story. But each of the other 3 species each had their own unique weapons and technology. The sci-fi aspect was crazy as they built a whole universe for this game, which went on to release an expansion game, Brood Wars, and then its sequel, Starcraft 2, which didn't come out until 2010, but it was well worth the wait. Number 3, Wolfenstein 3D. Developed by ID Software and released by Apogee Software, which also published Rise of the Triad under the 3D Realms label in 1992 for MS-DOS systems. What can I say about this game that hasn't already been said? It's arguably the godfather of all first-person shooter games, especially for me, since it's the game that introduced me to the genre. Plus, you get to kill Nazis. What's not liked about that? Number 2, Doom 2, Hell on Earth. Developed by ID Software and released by GT Interactive in 1994 for MS-DOS. If Wolfenstein is the godfather of first-person shooters, then Doom 2 would definitely be the granddaddy. I can't tell you how many hours I played on this game, going through all 32, yes 32, I found the 2 secret levels, trying to find all the secrets and of course killing as many monsters in as gruesome ways as possible. And then I discovered the codes. Infinite weapons, infinite ammo, God mode, yes please. The franchise has continued, and in fact the newest iteration is just released in May of 2016, but nothing really compares to this masterpiece. Alright, before we get to number 1, let's throw out some honorable mentions, shall we? Battle Chess, Blackthorn, Aliens vs. Predator, Unreal, Duke Nukem. Alright, so that leaves our number 1 pick, Seventh Guest. Developed by Triad Games and released for the PC in 1993 by Virgin Interactive. Wow. That's what I kept saying when I was first introduced to this game. It was released during the time of using live actors for the cinematic cutscenes as opposed to graphics, which really helped out in this murder mystery haunted house game. Filled with morbid puzzles to solve, you're trying to figure out the mystery of what happened to Henry Stoff and the guests that stayed in his mansion years ago. The music, effects, gameplay, and setting of this mansion itself makes it a frighteningly good atmosphere to play. There was a sequel released a couple years later called 11th Hour, which takes place in then present time and focuses on an investigative reporter who goes to the mansion after his producer has gone missing after starting to look into all the disappearances years ago from the first game. Gameplay was very similar and they used live actors for all the cutscenes again, but it didn't really quite carry the weight of the original game. Still, after all these years, it can be found on the iOS, you can download it on Amazon, as well as Android devices now. And now there's even a new game called 13th Doll, currently being developed by Fanbacking. Well, there it is, my personal top 10 PC games from the 1990s. How'd I do? Do you agree with any of them? Do you think I'm way off? What were your favorite PC games from the 90s? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, be sure to subscribe to my channel and also check out my podcast at popculturerewind.com. Until next time, always remember to pop your culture.